Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us. A Central Virginia, Commonwealth, country, and worldwide audience at our disposal on the I Love CVille Network, a network presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary. The best dispensary in Charlottesville is one on the downtown mall and a second location off the UVA corner on Elliowood Avenue. We also encourage the viewers and listeners of this talk show to pencil Thursday, September 1 on your calendar. That's this coming Thursday. There's a sunset music series at the Clifton in Keswick. The Clifton is going to host Marie and Coda of Chamomile and Whiskey in what's going to be an epic throwdown. Family fun, crafty cocktails, deliciousness, and fantastic music. A lot to cover on today's show. Yesterday's program, if you didn't catch it, was dynamite. I got significant feedback on yesterday's show. And what really resonated with viewers and listeners, moms and dads in particular, moms in particular from yesterday's show, is the mama bear protection feeling that moms embody much more so than dads. And you see this mama bird protection, this sense of protecting their cubs really come to the forefront when they feel their cubs, their sons or daughters, are unfairly treated. And there are a lot of cubs. There's a lot of sons and daughters that are being unfairly treated now. And you saw at a school board meeting, last night, a heated school board meeting last night where transportation came up, school bus drivers, the lack thereof, and the fact that some students are spending hours round trip on a school bus to get to and from school. I had one mom reach out to me this week. Her daughter is spending over 3.5 hours getting to and from school. The school bus showed up late, sitting in hot, humid weather. And it's important to emphasize this. The mom made this point to me. The bus stops these kids are getting picked up at, these aren't bus stops with shelter and protection. These aren't like the bus stops you see in the downtown mall, where a kid can wait in an air-conditioned waiting room. Or hell, sit on a bench with some shelter protecting them. Often the bus stops are kids meeting at a stop sign in a neighborhood or on the side of a road. So if you don't solve the issue and you don't solve it quickly, what happens when you have epic downpour of rain? What happens when you have snow? What happens when you have heat? 100-degree plus weather. We've had, since school has started, some pretty pleasant weather conditions. We haven't gotten bombarded with rain. There hasn't been 105-degree days like many in the Commonwealth know and loathe. The bus stops, as the mom, the listener of this fine and fair talk show, pointed to me, are kids waiting on the road by a stop sign. So when the bus is 45 minutes late, they're 45 minutes late with the kids not standing in air condition in shelter. They're standing on asphalt with cars buzzing by them, very much experiencing inclement weather, heat, and humidity. So last night at the Albemarle County School Board meeting, a positive came out of it. We highlighted this concern earlier in the week on this talk show. We said, hey, Albemarle County teachers are not being offered COVID sick leave. So if a teacher were to get COVID, she or he would have to use their vacation time or their sick time, as opposed to last year when they were allocated COVID time and they never had to erode sick or vacay time. Judah made the fine point, and Judah Witkower has contributed tremendously well. Let's go to the two-shot, and let's weave Judah B. Witkower into the program. I thought Judah said it perfectly earlier in the week. It was tone deaf. At a time when you're struggling to maintain teachers in a difficult profession because you're not paying them, and frankly the profession is thankless and difficult, you're then telling the teachers, hey, during a pandemic, use your vacation time or your sick time, Judah, as opposed to the COVID time that other school systems are offering. Fortunately, in the meeting, Judah, the COVID sick leave was reinstated.
Yeah. They had to see their mistake.
They had to.
I mean, there's nobody that would look at that more than once and say, yeah, this is a good idea. I mean, seriously, you've got parents, you've got teachers that are underpaid, and you're telling them that if they get sick, you have to know the implication of what you're doing is basically telling them that if you get sick, either keep coming into work and get everybody else sick.
That's what they're telling people.
Or what?
Right. Especially if it happens as the viewers and listeners have pointed out, in the back half of the year when the sick time and the vacation time has already been used up.
Yeah.
If you get COVID in the back half of the year and you didn't offer COVID sick leave, the teacher would show up to work.
Yeah.
And that's bogus. Okay? So last night at the Albemarle County School Board meeting, the Albemarle County, School Board, Thursday, it was contentious. It was heated. It was hot. There was a school board member. You want to hear a damning statement? Damning statement. A school board member said last night, and for the sake, if this person was a board of supervisor, I would out them. But because it's a school board member, I'm not going to out them. Okay? I'm not going to out them because it's school board and not board of supervisor. But this school board member said last night, I didn't know we had a school bus transportation issue until this year when my kid struggled to get on the bus.
Really?
Good Lord.
Me using the words tone deaf.
Yes, understatement.
Yeah. Does anybody have a term out there that works?
I call that school board member has been living in a silo of privilege.
Do they look like an emu, or are they sticking their head in the sand? Because how do you miss that?
It's and some of the in the Twitter sphere at Charlottesville Twitter, this topic is making its rounds. Mary McIntyre tweeted this morning. Mary McIntyre, I'll read the tweets. I hope it was not lost on anyone that last night's passionate school board discussion about transportation problems only happened because one of the school board members found out her kids would not get a bus. We have been having these struggles for years, but now they must be a priority, says the school board member. Mary McIntyre continues, If it takes privileged people finally getting inconvenienced to get angry, that's fine as long as the problem gets solved. But it should have been a priority long before now. Equity and all of that other mission stuff that schools try to offer.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. If you have to put someone through the same thing you're going through for them to understand what you're, it's just, come on. Especially if you're on the school board and your job is to take care of these things.
Your job is to determine how the money being allocated by this board of supervisors to the school system is spent. And if the school board member is saying on the record, on a microphone, with the media covering it, that I didn't know the school bus thing was an issue until my kid couldn't get a bus, because it didn't affect me. That's okay. Judah just said it. I'm getting fired up right now. It's literally what she said.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, I wonder how much it illustrates a much larger problem in the United States of people in power not caring because whatever problem it is that you're dealing with doesn't affect them.
Let's go down that path. I think that's exactly what it is. Well, okay, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. We hope that's not the case.
If she's basically saying it.
We hope it's someone that's oblivious to what's actually happening.
Yeah.
The concern about them being oblivious is they're the school board that determines how the money is spent for the optimization of the school system.
It's a different problem, but it's still a problem.
It's a major problem.
If it's a difference between being
it's someone who shouldn't probably have been elected to the school board.
Yeah. If it's a difference between not being empathetic and just not knowing, those are both problems, but they're different problems, obviously. I'm not sure which one I would prefer in the case of school board members.
I would prefer that she just was oblivious and not in tune with what was going on.
Yeah,
I hope to God it's not.
But that's still scary.
That is very scary. You're exactly right. I hope to God it's not, oh, this is not affecting my kids, so I don't have to do anything as a school board member.
Yeah.
Because if it's that, good God.
That's not just scary, that's terrifying.
That's terrifying. That's reckless.
Yeah.
That's reckless. So, if you watch and listen to this Fine and Fair talk show, one of the themes that are underlying of all the shows we do, specifically the I Love CVille show, is Judah and I often go to bat for the individuals that are marginalized. We go to bat, Judah and I, for the underdog. We go to bat for teachers on this show. We go to bat for school bus drivers on this show. We go to bat with tenants that are being evicted on this show.
Yeah.
We go to bat for the black community in Charlottesville that finds itself unwelcomed in Charlottesville because there are few activities in Charlottesville for the black and brown community to do. Okay? We go to bat for folks on the financial margin. We go to bat for the people that don't have large and loud voices. We champion and fight for the underdog. And I said on yesterday's show, and it resonated with parents. I got tremendous feedback from yesterday's show. We get a lot of feedback, DMs. Yesterday's was pretty significant. And I made the argument that the county school board and the Charlottesville City School Board are more prioritizing and concerned and focused with woke policy, like rebranding schools. Kale Elementary to Mountain View is a good example, because the school has some kind of past association with something uncomfortable for Americans in 2022.
Yeah.
They're more concerned with woke policy that's inclusive, and I'm all for inclusion. Inclusivity. I'm all for inclusivity, thank you. I am all for inclusivity.
Yeah.
But getting kids to school on time so they can learn and not have 3 hours plus round trip on a school bus, that should take priority over rebranding schools and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on signage. And the way you solve the school bus driver issue is by paying drivers more money. And I'm backing that statement up with the Louisa County school system. The Louisa County school system said, school board, Louisa, they said, we have a school bus driver problem, right? So what did Louisa do in its school board? What did they do?
I'm guessing they paid the drivers more.
They gave the drivers more money. And guess what happened?
They got more drivers.
They got more drivers. And guess what happened?
You catch more drivers with money than with... it's a joke, but...
You catch more people with money than anything else. People go to work to make money. They're not going to work to have fun. It's a job. You go to work to make money. Dude.
Depends on the job.
It's a job. You go to work. If it was called fun, it wouldn't be called a job. If the job was fun, it would be called fun and not work. People don't go to a 9 to 5. They don't say, I'm going to my 9 to 5, it's called fun. They go, I'm going to my 9 to 5, it's called work. And you want more people to work, you pay them more money. Louisa did it, and they got a full fleet of drivers. Albemarle County and Charlottesville are more focused on woke policy than getting kids to school on time for science class and history class. And now, the self-proclaimed, self-anointed, and also we've been bestowed the accolade by other outlets. Can you truly be a world-class city if your middle-class students and your lower-class students can't get to school on time? Can you truly be the best city to live in the country, as Charlottesville's been called so many times? We ourselves have anointed ourselves a world-class city. That's a self-proclaimed tagline from Charlottesville.
Is it?
Yeah. It's on the back of the CTS buses. That's
fair.
our tagline. We call ourselves a world-class city, and media outlets call us the best place to live in America.
Yeah.
Can you truly be, if kids can't get to school on time,
And
because the school board is more focused on woke policy, changing school names, than getting kids to class to learn?
Yeah.
Finish your thought. I apologize.
I was just going to add one of the other topics we're talking about today is a lot of people getting evicted.
Yeah.
Can you really call yourself a world-class city when there are no safety nets in place for people like this?
Well, you know what my biggest problem, and we'll talk about the eviction. You want to? Why don't you get the get the nitty-gritty for the eviction story up so you can relay to the viewers and listeners. One of my biggest problems with the eviction stuff is a lot of the folks doing the evicting now.
Yeah, big property managers
Got stimulus money. Got money from the government to stay cracking and rocking
No
and
doubt.
rolling. And now the eviction, is it memoriam? What's the word?
Memoriam.
Yeah, that's now over. And now they can boot these people that can't pay. Okay? But the same people doing the booting were doing the begging for the money to keep their coffers full during COVID.
Well, it's not too dissimilar from, what do they call it, rent seeking?
Explain that to me.
Is that what it's called?
What?
Rent seeking?
Rent seeking? What's rent seeking?
Let me look it up.
No, you tell me what you're talking and I'll look it up here.
I basically just mean that
An economic concept that occurs when an entity seeks to gain added wealth without any reciprocal contribution of productivity. Rent seeking typically revolves around government-funded social services and social service programs. So tell me, finish your thought.
I'm basically just saying that a lot of this is about greed. It's about making us
all greed.
Yeah. Well, I meant a lot of the people, like we're talking about these big property managers. I'm not saying that everybody who is a landlord in Charlottesville is greedy, but the evidence of the actions basically says that a lot of these companies are just looking for as much money as they can make. And so if you can make money off the government when they're providing relief for people and then evict people and get new tenants into your buildings who are probably more likely to be able to pay without any kind of rent relief.
Read the nut graph. Read a couple graphs of that story and set the stage for the viewers and listeners.
Let's see. Are we on the CBS 19 one?
Yeah. CBS 19's got this story.
Eviction cases have increased over the past few months because COVID tenant protections that were implemented during the pandemic are expiring. Let's see. They're definitely ramping up a lot by a large factor, I would say. This from senior supervising attorney for the Legal Aid Justice Center. During the pandemic, there were all kinds of protections but they ended June 30th, allowing landlords to take action. So, when July rolled around, landlords can now file non-payment evictions, and we've got, just last week, more than 100 people had eviction hearings in Albemarle County.
It's getting ugly out there. It's getting ugly out there.
Landlords have filed more than 350 eviction notices at places like Abington Crossing and Square Hill, Charlottesville.
Abington Crossing has also had, if you follow the news like I follow the news, Abington Crossing has also had a lot of gunfire and a lot of shootings of late at Abington Crossing. So here's, as we champion the underdog, that's one of the themes here. One of the themes of the I Love CVille show is to showcase the best of Charlottesville and Central Virginia. One of the themes of the I Love CVille show is to relay information to you that's local, that matters. One of the themes that we try to do here on this Fine and Fair Talk show is to humanize, localize, and personalize the community. Have you noticed in the last 10 minutes we've had David Toscano wave to us in the window of our studio.
And wasn't
Denise
that
Ramey waved to us in the studio.
I didn't see
And that was
Denise
Yaz
Ramey.
Washington.
Yeah, that's
Just
what I
walked
thought
by.
it was.
Yeah. In the last 5 minutes, we've had David Toscano, a state delegate,
I know. I was like,
former
wait a
city
minute.
councilor, come up to us and wave and say hello.
Is he coming to talk to us?
Wave and say hello. Denise Ramey, one of the most prolific realtors
I missed that.
in the Commonwealth. Wave and say hello. Denise, you look great. Yaz Washington just
Yeah, stroll by.
stroll by. I love our perch here in downtown Charlottesville. I love it. You see so many heavy hitters. Lloyd Snook walking by, the mayor of Charlottesville.
Hardly a surprise, considering he works down the
his
hall.
firm's right down here. I still love to see the mayor. Love the mayor.
Yeah.
Big fan of the mayor. Big fan of the mayor. Nakia Walker throwing shade on the mayor.
Recently?
Yeah.
I mean,
Last 4 or 5 days. I wasn't even going to bring this up on the show. Have you noticed how that moniker has not been a prevalent topic of this show?
what moniker?
Nakia Walker.
Oh. That's... I think you're using moniker wrong, but yeah, I know.
That name?
Yeah.
You don't think Monica works there?
What?
You don't think Monica works there?
Moniker is like a nickname.
So you don't think Monica could work for me saying her name hasn't come up on this show?
Not really.
Okay, fair. All right. I'll keep that in mind.
Moniker.
You're looking it up, moniker definition?
I mean, I guess it says it's a name,
I think it could work, name.
but it's usually an alternate name.
I mean, yeah.
The meaning of
it's usually a nickname.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. I could have chosen a better word. Would you have preferred surname? I guess surname's not really a good one either.
Surname means your last
Name, yeah. And I use first, so that wouldn't work. I mean, maybe I just say that name hasn't come up. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I haven't noticed. Well, I wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't brought it up. But now that you bring it up, yes, of course, we haven't been talking about her. But I don't know that there's anything really to talk about unless she's been in the news.
Because she's not the mayor
and
anymore.
if she's throwing shade at the current mayor,
she's throwing shade at the current mayor.
I would kind of like to hear what she had to say.
Do you want to hear the shade?
Yeah, just because
we host a talk show.
I want to know if it's absurd or not.
All right, so this is her post from August 19th. She says, it's a long post, like many of them are. She says, racism is why your current status quo mayor has comfortably attacked Dr. Rashal Brackney and me almost every time he has uttered our names, but he can look an insurrectionist in the eye and defend him. Ultimately, white understands white. Our leaders will protect people who want to overthrow the sliver of democracy we have left behind before they allow black women they can't control to challenge their racism and destroy their racist institutions. It's Nakia Walker, an excerpt from her post on August 19th, calling the mayor once again a racist.
I mean, if that's all the ammo you got, you might as well put it in your gun and fire away, right?
Yeah. It starts losing a little bit of influence. When you hurl it around constantly left and right, and it's your go-to line for everything, it starts losing credibility to the point that it just becomes noise in the background and people don't care.
Yeah.
That's the problem with that approach to things. Using it constantly diminishes the value of using it each time you roll it out.
Yeah.
And that's what she's done. And Snook is far from that.
Right.
In fact, his firm
specializes in helping
under-resourced
lower
clients.
income, under-resourced, downtrodden.
We see the clients in the hallway.
Yeah.
Because their offices, because of COVID, the meeting spot is in the hallway outside.
Yeah.
Specializes in this clientele.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's his raison d'etre. His business's
very nice.
reason for being.
Very nice.
Is to help people like that.
Yeah.
So, you can't escape this kind of absurdity in the USA Today.
You cannot escape this kind of absurdity in the USA Today. Morgan Moran watching the program. Vanessa Parkhill, I'll get to your comment in a matter of moments. Let's get to Morgan Moran. I am not a landlord, but my question is this. Morgan, I think this is the first time you've commented on the show. I respect your contribution with this question. Thank you for joining us. Morgan says this, I'm not a landlord, but my question is, while folks have not been paying rent, have those landlords still had to pay the mortgage? which, depending on their own personal income, may or not be able to afford tenants not paying rent, ruining their credit. Workers' credit getting ruined is hard to build back. It seems like a catch-22 that could be sending some landlords into bankruptcy. That's a good point.
It is a very good point.
That's a very good point.
And a good question, although, like this article says, in fact, we didn't read the whole thing. I talked about big property managers, but the quote from, this is a quote from Victoria McCullough, the co-chair of the Charlottesville DSA Housing Justice Committee, says, "I think people often envision small landlords or mom and pop landlords when you think about evictions, but the reality is a lot of the major evictors are big property managers."
And you know why that is?
That isn't to say that question isn't a good question.
Oh, it's a great question.
Because I'm sure there are mom and pop and smaller landlords who have had trouble throughout the pandemic and have had to keep, people in their places.
I'm a mom and pop landlord.
But
I'm a mom and pop landlord.
Yeah. But and so yes, those are good concerns.
Know why it's the big ones that do the evicting?
Because they're not worried about losing a tenant for any amount of time.
No, it's the big ones that primarily do the evicting, the big ones, because it's expensive to evict somebody.
Yeah.
And the mom and pop doesn't necessarily have...
And that's tied into the fact that they don't mind losing a tenant for, months at a time, whereas a mom and pop or a smaller landlord, while it may seem like they would have every right and reason to evict someone, if they are working with that person to at least recoup some of the money on a regular basis. It's like paying part of what you owe on a credit card. Usually credit companies will work with you as long as you're paying some amount of money. But a big, a big property manager probably doesn't care.
Well said. That was excellent. That was an excellent, succinct take. Very well said. The mom and pop is much more likely, as Judah's already identified, to work with the tenant. The mom and pop, every dollar really counts for the mom and pop, where the big ones can go months, as Judah's indicated, with the vacancy, because they have hundreds of units to carry the debt service.
Yeah.
Where a mom and pop can't, the house of cards would crumble.
Yeah.
Where the big ones, who cares? I mean, they care, but it's not a big a deal. And the big ones have the money and the institutional knowledge and the human capital and resources to take the eviction football through the entire course of the game.
Yeah.
Where the mom and pop often has another job and can't take the eviction football from first quarter to fourth quarter.
Right, and if they're doing it all themselves, not only do they have to come up with the money for for court fees and stuff like that, but then after they've if during that time the person decides, well, they're trying to evict me, why would I continue paying anything? So now they're losing out on that, and then once the person finally gets evicted, now they've got to clean the place up before they can get someone else in there. So you're talking about possibly months of lost income just trying to evict somebody that may or may not really want to pay you.
What do you make of these evictions? And the follow-up question is, how many more are coming? And the follow-up question to that is, Jerome Powell from Jackson Hole. I don't know if you guys, the viewers and listeners are extremely intelligent and sophisticated. And the viewers and listeners understand that Jerome Powell's in Jackson Hole talking about whether he's going to be dovish or hawkish with raising rates.
I think we know where that's going to go.
Well, the markets are in the crapper right now. You got all the major indices are red. They're bleeding. Because Powell came out and said, I'm going to be hawkish, and I'm going to beat the you-know-what out of inflation. And how Jerome Powell is going to beat inflation like a drum, or how he hopes to beat inflation like a drum, is raising rates enough that it diminishes demand and it squashes the labor market, and it creates vulnerability in the labor market. So you raise rates enough, you do away with disposable income enough, you do away with credit card purchasing power enough because people are afraid to carry the debt now because rates are going up. People stop buying goods. When they stop buying stuff, that stuff they're trying to buy can replenish and recycle. So you start getting more depth in inventory. And then, unfortunately, one of the side effects of this is some softening of the labor market. There's going to be some people that lose their jobs here. He said that this morning from Jackson Hole. The Dow is down basically 2 points. The NASDAQ is down 2.5 plus points. S&P 500 down over 2. I bring this up to set the stage that I think evictions are going to be much more prevalent. Mm-hmm. The moms and the mommies and daddies, the husbands and wives, the couples, they're struggling to pay their bills. And as the debt mounts up and snowballs, eventually the rent payments are missed. And when the rent payments are missed, you see the companies in town willing to litigate and evict. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And you see yet again the divide between wealthy and poor widen. It's gotten worse. Worse. COVID made it worse.
Oh, yeah.
COVID made it worse with school and education. COVID made it worse with housing. COVID made it worse with groceries.
I mean, we're basically still seeing the runoff, the
collateral damage.
Yeah, the collateral damage.
We're still seeing it.
I mean, there are still things that I can't find in the grocery store.
Like what?
Like hash browns. I mean, it may sound silly, but I think it's just
not silly. You like a good hash brown.
Yeah. I mean, there are things that I just have not seen in months, possibly even over a year, since a lot of this stuff, disappeared from the shelves during COVID.
Johnny Ornalis, Travis Hackworth, welcome to the program. Johnny Ornalis is the owner of Guadalajara and El Mariachi. Travis Hackworth is the king of Danville, Virginia. We have the Queen of Earlysville, Vanessa Parkhill, with some comments for Judah and me. Also a failure on the part of the superintendent for not addressing the shortage in the budget proposals.
No doubt.
She's saying the superintendent should have been on top of this, Dr. Haas.
Yeah.
Should have been on top of this from the beginning. I agree.
I wonder if he had been on top of it, if the school board members would have known about it, rather than having to be informed about it by their child, having to wait for a school bus.
Great question. Very well said. Completely well said. I mean, how do you not prioritize kids getting to school and getting home from school?
Yeah.
That's the first step of school.
Yeah. If you can't get them in the seats, then what are you doing?
Exactly. That's the first step of school. She adds this, with regard to the eviction issue, maybe it's my age, maybe my background, but I must be missing something. You sign a lease, you agree to pay, you don't get to stay. Jerry, when you were still carrying a mortgage on your condo, how long could you cover continuing your payments to your lender without the rent coming in? In the early years, I could not. In the earlier years of taking a condo at the Villas of Southern Ridge and taking it from a primary residence where I lived for 7 years, and in those 7 years, a 3-bedroom, I lived in one. The other 2 bedrooms were always full with tenants, my friends, my homies, girlfriends at the time, one, not multiple. I was not a polygamist, but I had a couple girlfriends over the course of the 7 years who chose to live there. It wasn't like girlfriend 1 in the 2nd bedroom and then girlfriend 2 in the smaller 3rd bedroom. It was one at a time. Not a polygamist here.
That's refreshing.
But for 7 years, I built the equity by having other tenants in the place help subsidize the mortgage for me and or allowing me to overpay the mortgage. And when I chose to move from the Villas of Southern Ridge, I moved to a home. I bought a home in Redfields. Now I live in Keswick. But when I bought a house in Redfields, I lived in Redfields for 7 years. After living in the Villas for 7 years, that first year and a half, if I hadn't had a tenant in place at the Villas while moving to a significantly larger or more expensive mortgage payment in Redfields, I would have lost the villas. So her point is, if people don't pay rent, shouldn't you kick them out and evict them? And isn't this just how the game is played?
In some regards, yes. And as we've pointed out, I'm sure there are some smaller landlords and mom and pop landlords who are doing this. At some point, you just have to kick someone out. If someone is flouting the kindness that you've shown them, or just attempting to help them, then sometimes it becomes necessary to get them out of your home. But this also seems to be much more a problem with bigger property companies, and obviously they're less.
I guess her point is: are we treating the bigger property companies unfairly? Because their tenants signed a lease and they didn't pay their rent. Should they not get the boot? And are we basically saying that the bigger property companies?
I think we're making assumptions because we don't really know anything about any of these cases. So yes, some of them may be getting booted because they're just not paying, but others may be getting booted because they fell behind over the course of the pandemic, and they've been trying to catch back up, but because clearly the bailouts, basically, the money that's been given to help people has not been commensurate with what's been, the time and work and money that's been lost. So somebody trying to make up 6, 7, 8, 9 months worth of rent, it's obviously going to take a while to do so. And if someone, remember, the moratorium ended June 30th. So
we're talking not even 2 months.
Yeah. So the look on
some of these were getting evicted a few days after the moratorium ended.
The look on this is that a lot of these are just like, we were waiting until we could start evicting people.
You're saying the perception is rotten.
Yeah.
It's a rotten perception.
And I get it. In some cases, you may be right. It may have been a person that was just not paying. Maybe they chose the reason of COVID and the pandemic and all the other stuff going on to say, oh, well, I can just not pay for a couple of years. And those people deserve to be kicked out.
Well,
I don't think anybody would have a problem with that.
Disagreeing with us. You got a lot of people disagreeing with us. And I'm on your side on this one.
About?
I mean, Kevin Yancey says in Waynesboro, he says, Jerry, how long could one of your clients go without paying you before you have to walk away from them? He says It's been almost 2 years of assistance with rent and eviction relief with these people.
And that's why I'm saying we don't know the individual.
Vanessa makes a similar point.
Yeah.
Similar point.
Like I said, we don't know the particulars of any of these cases. And so in a lot of those cases, maybe our viewers are correct. But I think it should be said that I think not all of these cases are probably like that.
Travis in Danville, in regards to the school buses, Travis, you make the program better. The issue around bus drivers is not all pay. A lot of bus drivers in districts across the Commonwealth are older, and they are prone to random call-outs. If a bus driver is involved in an incident, they have to be out until the investigation is resolved. If they did not have staff to do it, maybe they should have looked into outsourcing, partnering with city public transit to fill the positions. The schools are allocated money based on all positions being full. The school district could have used the money allocated in that line item to subsidize the cost to the city to hire enough staff to handle it. Public transit workers would most likely be full-time. They just work their city route or job after doing their morning and afternoon school routes.
I'm not sure what
to make the program better.
I'm not sure what I think about the older
He's
people.
right. A lot of school bus drivers are old, and they're aging out of the profession. He's 100% right about that.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how any of that would have changed over the course of the last few years.
Well, he's saying as they get older, they're more susceptible to health issues that come with age, and because of those health issues, it leads them to call out of work, which furthers the driver shortage.
I heard all that.
That's a justifiable point.
Yeah, but wouldn't that have been the case there doesn't seem to be any effect on that particular problem based on COVID. I mean, there have always been elderly. I don't think the age range has changed in bus drivers. So how is that not a problem before COVID?
It's what we saw with the airlines. What happened during COVID with the airlines? The airline staff took early retirement because there was not enough demand for the airlines to support the bloated payrolls that weren't needed. People weren't flying. Now that people are back in the air and traveling, this past summer was one of the craziest summer travel summers ever. The effects of the staff leaving during COVID were really felt this summer when the airlines didn't have enough people to handle the demand.
Yeah, well,
the school bus drivers retired during COVID because the kids were learning at home and there wasn't enough demand for the drivers. They said, "We'll do something else."
Right. I think in a lot of businesses that was what happened. Is a lot of people took early retirement, but that's not what he was talking about. So I just didn't see the relevance.
Well, how about this comment from Yancey? He says this. Where's the money going to come from? If you pay them more, what program do you cut? And that was my point. You don't necessarily have to cut a program. The money spent on rebranding a school, changing out the signage, the business cards, the letterhead, all the branding, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Albemarle County has rebranded multiple schools because of some kind of woke motivation. That's fair.
This new outrage about
woke motivation. Just leave it at that.
Sure.
They rebrand it because of woke motivation.
Yeah.
Okay. That money, hundreds of thousands of dollars,
could have gone toward
paying the drivers
and teachers.
And then you don't have this situation. That's the point I'm trying to make. You're not taking the money from a program. Travis says, Judah, the point is when you have a shortage of workers already, you have an older workforce and they call out, it exasperates the issue.
No, I get that, but
I agree with what he's saying there.
Okay.
I mean, he's right. If you're getting older and you're already short staff and the staff is older by nature, they're going to be more susceptible to health because health issues come with age. So as the staff gets older, there's going to be more call-outs happening because of health concerns. That's right. I mean, that's right. That's not being an ageist. That's just being a realist.
I didn't call it ageist. I mean, okay.
Elena Mangione. Elena Mangione is a smart businesswoman with common sense. I love this lady. She says, don't forget the CDL requirements. CDL means a spotless driving record. For you to have a CDL, you have to have a spotless driving record.
Yeah, they definitely can't just go out into the populace and say, hey, who wants to drive a bus?
And she says, and the closure of CDL schools during COVID perhaps supports the aging out without replacement theory. Elena Mangione, that is damn good right there. Damn good, Elena Mangione.
Interesting take.
A very good take. CDL schools definitely closed during COVID. Because why would you need a CDL school when people weren't CDLing? Because they were quarantining. The world stopped.
Yep.
Now more collateral damage of the pandemic being felt now in an endemic stage of life. What the school system should do, if they were smart business people like Elena Mangione, is they should take school buses and pivot their fleet to buses or to vehicles that don't require CDL licenses. Like they're talking about rolling out these smaller vans. And these smaller vans can be operated with straight up a driver's license.
So
You've seen some of these smaller vans at, say, like the private schools transporting athletic teams around. These vans still can transport 20, 25 kids with an adult driving them. And the smaller vans, you can drive with a driver's license.
Yeah.
So maybe we consider taking some of the payroll bloat in the front office and saying, hey, front office, your job is to make sure the school system's running right. And right now, kids ain't getting to school on time. Why don't you get out of the front office, get in a van, and start driving some people? Or at least put them in the crossing guard outfit, uniform, and help kids get across the street. Because there's one thing to plan curriculum, and that's extremely important, and manage a school system. You know what else is important? Kids not getting hit by cars when they're crossing a crosswalk. I think that's pretty important.
Yeah.
You want to hear a headline that's going to be nastier for the Albemarle County school system? Forget SOLs. Third grader gets pummeled by Mack truck while crossing the road after walking miles to school because school system doesn't have bus to transport him. That's a worse headline.
Yeah.
All right, a few other topics. Touch on Jamie Dimon, and we're going to localize Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon is the, I would say, the most influential man in finance. The most influential man in finance. Some may throw out a couple other folks. Brian Mohanan is the CEO of Bank of America. He's up there as well. But Jamie Dimon is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. And he is very behind the scenes telling his staff to get their butts to work for 5 days a week of work.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to work 5 days a week. Now we're going to set the stage. Judah's going to set the stage, and he's going to explain why there's more to it. I'm going to set the stage as this. During COVID, the employee had the leverage with the employer. The Great Resignation. Employers were scrambling to find people to keep their businesses alive.
I would argue that they still are.
Outside of restaurants, I can't think of an industry that's in that would describe that.
Just because they're laying off people doesn't mean they don't need people.
Big tech is laying off people.
Yes, and just because they're laying off people
Big finance
doesn't
is
mean they
laying
don't
off
need
people. Big finance is laying off people.
Yeah.
Jerome Powell earlier this morning from Jackson Hole said, people are going to lose their jobs. The only way we're going to put inflation in check, unfortunately, is people are going to have to lose their jobs. And that's going to diminish demand and purchasing power, and it's going to get inflation in check. You're going to see people lose their jobs.
Yep.
Okay? JP Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, said his staff is going to get their tails in their seats 5 days a week immediately. Goldman Sachs said the same thing. Apple is laying people off. Facebook is laying people off. Snapchat laying people off. Everywhere you read, Walmart is freezing, Amazon's freezing, Microsoft is freezing hiring. Everywhere you read.
Because it's one of the easiest ways to cut your bottom line.
Exactly. And it's one of the easiest ways to hedge against a recession by trimming fat off your balance sheet. Keeping cost in check. The work from home, remote work lifestyle has got serious headwinds in front of it. And I want your take on it. I know you're going to give the take on the building and the fact that JP Morgan Chase is basically a REIT and owns a boatload of real estate, and it would look bad for them if they couldn't keep their building full.
Well, now I don't have to.
Well, you can still give the take. I'm going to counter that take by saying this. If you had to lay someone off, are you going to lay off the person you see every day sitting in the desk next to you that you interact with eyeball to eyeball or human to human? Or are you going to lay off the person you see through a computer screen in a business card square through Zoom that you have no relationship with?
That's more of an argument for the people, for the employees themselves to decide to come back in, less than a reason why the
if I was in my mid-20s, if I was fresh out of UVA, again, and my first job outside of UVA was not at the Daily Progress, but instead was at JP Morgan Chase, you know what I would be doing?
No.
I would be the first one into work every day and the last one to leave work every day. I would make it my freaking mission to be the first one at work, at my desk, on the floor, every single day, Monday through Friday, and the last one to leave Monday through Friday. I'm 25. I want to chase some paper. I'm hungry. I'm ambitious. I want to make some wealth and some money. I would be first to leave, first to come, and last to leave. And I would do that with the mindset of this. My peers, my colleagues, my coworkers are still disillusioned that they can work from home long term. Why don't I get as much equity, human capital, and face time and skin in the game as my disillusioned colleagues cling to a pipe dream of working from the coat closet in their house? I instead am going to get in-person time with my boss, earn some equity relationship points, and get the promotion before the writing on the wall becomes a reality and everyone has to come in anyway. I swear to God, that's what I would have done. That would be the advice I would give any parent watching this program that has a kid in their 20s. Show them that 3 minutes of content right there. Any kid watching this program that has a kid in their 20s. Anyone that's watching this program that's in their 20s, that's hungry and ambitious, get your ass to work and watch you climb the vertical ladder faster than your colleagues that are clinging to a pipe dream of working remotely from the coat closet in perpetuity. Yeah, right, it ain't happening. Judah, the show's yours.
I mean, those are all good points, and there's not really there's no real refutation for them. But there are some interesting details in the story of Jamie Dimon ordering everyone back in their seats at work, and part of that is, as you mentioned, the fact that that they are big into owning office space. And JP Morgan's developing a $3 billion with a B building in Manhattan. That's an entire city block that will be home to 15,000 JP Morgan employees. It's going to be done in 2025. And if they have this building go up 70 stories, taking up an entire block, with this housing as many as 15,000 workers, and if they don't have people in the seats, then how's that going to look for them trying to sell other people offices?
Well, they're not selling people offices.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they own offices. They offer financing for office space purchases, and they themselves are building a $3 billion with a B office epicenter headquarters in Manhattan. That's an entire city block, and will eventually in 2025 be completed and be home to 15,000 JP Morgan employees. So the thinking from Jamie Dimon is, what the hell? I got a $3 billion building that's 2 years away. I need to get these people in the seats, or what did I spend this $3 billion on?
And it's not just about the building, though, because JP Morgan is a major investor in real estate in New York City. And here it says, having lower occupancy rates is essentially driving down the assets they have as a bank. And that's a knock-on effect to the shareholder price.
Exactly.
So basically, even if they didn't have a building in production,
their bottom line would be impacted by vacancies.
Yeah, because they're an investor in New York real estate. If people aren't using New York real estate, they're going to end up losing money.
And that's right
so
there.
So they want everyone else. They're
trying to influence trends.
They want to be the leader and have everyone else follow them and bring people back into offices, rent more office space, and then...
It's like what's the guy on the Reddit board, the Wall Street bet board, the kitty guy?
Roaring Kitty.
Roaring Kitty?
Yeah.
Is it Roaring?
Roaring Kitty.
Yeah, Roaring Kitty.
Yeah, Keith Gill.
Yeah, made what, tens of millions of dollars? Was it hundreds of millions or tens of millions?
He made quite a bit. I don't know the exact amount.
Yeah, he's like Scrooge McDuck, spitting gold coins from his mouth after swimming in the coins for an hour. That's how wealthy this guy is. But every time he did a trade, he showed that trade on the Wall Street Bets forum on Reddit, because he knew he was so influential that other people would mimic or parrot his trade, which would create tailwinds and momentum for his trade. JP Morgan is trying to be the roaring kitty. Get your ass back in the office, because they want other people to mimic what they do. Because if they mimic what they do, their building positions, their real estate positions have more value.
I don't know if that's really a fair.
Why not?
Because I don't think Roaring Kitty was pumping and dumping.
Kitty. You don't think what?
I don't think he was pumping and dumping stocks.
You don't think Roaring Kitty knew that millions of people would follow whatever he did on Reddit? Come on. Let's be realistic.
Jerry, you haven't seen the detractors that he had.
I know he had detractors.
People weren't exactly just following every move that he made before he made all this money.
I know.
And he wasn't just a straight up millionaire who was, like I said, pumping and dumping stocks for years on Reddit and using his influence,
his clout,
to get people to buy in so that he could sell at the top and leave them as bag holders.
Yeah.
That is not what Roaring Kitty was doing.
No, but Roaring Kitty was pumping content for people to mimic what he was doing. You don't think Roaring Kitty had an ulterior motive besides just posting his trades on a Reddit forum? You honestly think Roaring Kitty was just a genuine, altruistic guy? You don't think he had an ulterior motive?
A lot of people on Reddit are not there to pump and dump stocks. A lot of them are discussing.
Well,
a lot of them
disagree on this one.
Okay.
Agree to disagree on this one. Travis, the smaller facilities, offices, I think are maybe the future of work. And that's one of the reasons one of our businesses is these executive offices we do. We have 24 executive private offices that we rent to tenants, 24 of them. And those 24 are furnished completely by us, by me. They are fiber interneted by us. We cover it. And we pay for the electric as well. So my tenants come in. They get a key to their office and a key to the waiting room door. And they have a private office of their own. They don't have to move furniture in. They don't have to sign up for internet. They don't have to put a deposit in for internet. They don't have to sign up for electric. They don't have to put a deposit for electric. They have a mail slot, their own address. It's completely turnkey. We have no vacancies and a waiting list. I agree that the smaller offices are the future of work. I find it very fascinating what Jamie Dimon is doing. Very fascinating. And I'll close on this. From a Charlottesville standpoint, from a Charlottesville and Albemarle County standpoint, from a Central Virginia standpoint, it is more economically advantageous having humans in offices than having them work remotely. Humans in offices in the many large buildings around the downtown mall. Bill Nitchman's the Professional Center. Joffrey Woodruff's the Code Building. The Willow Tree Campus. Oliver Kutner's buildings. Having the people in the building is good for the businesses around the mall. It's good for Charlottesville's economy.
Yeah.
Because the people that work remotely are doing their shopping remotely. They're much more apt. You look at the correlation of working remotely and shopping online and taking your dollars outside the community, as opposed to working in person, shopping in person, and keeping your dollars within the community. There's a direct correlation to remote work and online shopping and the dollars leaving the community you reside within.
Yeah.
And that's not good for anyone.
Yeah. People, please don't spend your money on Amazon.
And people, please don't spend your money with Amazon. Do you want to say it again?
Please don't spend your money on Amazon.
Please don't spend your money with Amazon, people.
You really want to ruin the mom and pops.
You are going to turn the world into an Amazon, Walmart, and Target world.
Yeah.
Please don't spend your money with Amazon. What did you learn this week?
Oh, let's see. I learned how scary it is to fly into Honduras. My dad is, I think, flying back today, He's been on Honduras all week on a mission trip, and they have apparently a very short runway when you get there. I mean, it's literally like they have to fly down the side of a mountain and like come down and just land like that.
Was it scary?
He's done it before. I think he's inured to it now because my dad, when I was a kid and we would fly to, say, see my grandmother, he would, as soon as the seatbelt signs came off, he would be up pacing the aisles,
sweating,
sweat just pouring down his face, and he's.
Did you mention
he's become a little more blasé about flying, but that, I think, flying into Honduras is sometimes still an issue.
Has Big Jim considered like a couple of bourbons?
He's not a drinker.
Not a drinker. Got it. Okay. Well, welcome back. So he's stateside now?
No, I think he'll probably get back. I don't even know if he gets back today or tonight.
He's on a mission trip building houses in Honduras.
No. It's a medical mission trip. My dad is, I think, one of the only Spanish speakers in the group. So he is in charge of intake. So basically, they do have, I think, some doctors and medical personnel. They've brought some medical supplies, creams, pills, things like that. And so basically, when people come in, the other parts of the medical group need to know what a particular person's need is, what their problem is. And so my dad takes them as they come in, talks to them about what their issue is so that it can be, written down and passed along to whoever's going to help them.
I love it.
It's good stuff. I'm proud of my dad.
I'm proud of your dad too. Big Jim Witkower, we're proud of you over here. Sincerely mean that. Judd Norrell is giving you props.
Judd is a great guy.
Where's Judd watching? Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
He's in Santa. What's up, Judd? Mandy Witkower, your sister's giving you props.
He took the very first video recording of my family.
Really?
Back in, I don't know what year it was, but I was probably, I don't know, 9?
Oh, he's making some comments here.
May have been 80, may have been like 84.
Aren't you impressed, Judd?
He had one of those gigantic, big, like...
cameras?
Yeah.
Aren't you impressed, Judd? And aren't you impressed, Mandy? And aren't you impressed, Kathy Clark Gelberd, with how well Judah Witkower's been doing on the talk show? I mean, he's been killing it. Aren't you impressed with this Judah Witkower, Mandy? I mean, he's just likable and outgoing and charismatic and quick-witted. It's just absolutely dynamite.
Sometimes.
Judd said that was true in 1987. I took that video.
1987, wow.
And he said Jim Witkower is skilled in languages.
He definitely is. So that must have been right before we moved to Maine.
1987.
Because I'd have been...
He took the first video of the Witkower family.
It must have been, early 87.
35 years ago.
Early 87, before we moved to Maine, and I would have been 11 years old.
Jamie Turning, we'll get to your comments. Carol Thorpe, we'll get to your comments. And Kevin, we'll get to your comments as well. Vanessa Parkhill in Earlysville has asked if you could cut that into a sizzle reel about working in offices again so that she could easily share with her kids. Will you cut the take that I gave about getting back to work and grinding so you get promotions and FaceTime? If you can cut that into a sizzle reel and send it to Vanessa, she'd love to share that with her kids. Thank you, Vanessa, for participating and watching the show. We can send you that. We could probably DM her that through my account. Jamie Turner is repping the pep in Culpeper, but he's the mayor of Gordonsville. He says office work is incredibly unproductive for the companies I've worked for. Our productivity has increased significantly since going fully remote. However, I do sympathize with your point of showing face with leadership. And I empathize with his point because he lives in Culpeper, but works in Northern Virginia. So if he had to work in the office, he would be wasting significant time commuting to and from work.
Yeah.
So I sympathize and empathize with the people with the long commutes because you genuinely have an argument that remote work is more efficient.
Yeah, I think it goes to show that there is no argument that fits all situations. There are details that you need to take into account for each business, for each worker. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution that everybody needs to be in the office or everybody should work from home.
And Carol Thorpe makes this comment, and I am in agreement 100%. I love people. I love being around people. I love talking, like your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad has never met a stranger. Your dad gets energy from being around people, right? He's a social butterfly. That's how I am. Staying at home made me banana. Like, I lost my mind.
Well, you came in here.
Well, we worked every day during the pandemic. People were heckling us for coming in and working. Remember?
Not really.
Well, they did. Carol Thorpe, the Queen of Jack Jewett, makes this comment. And we'll close on this, and she's exactly right. Let me see if I can find it. Man, where is it at? Basically, she's saying, Carol, I'm going to have to paraphrase it because I think it just disappeared from the interwebs. And Carol's comment, oh, here it is. All that prognostication and crystal balling about adults working from home, from Zoom rooms, and students doing school online has not aged very well from last year. Humans want to share spaces with each other.
Yeah.
Well said, Carol. That's a great way to end.
Though I wouldn't always necessarily want to share space with
want
co-workers
to share space with
and
me.
bosses.
Yeah, with me is what he's saying. You may not want to share a space with me. That's what he's saying right there. And I'll cut to the chase. I'm very demanding. I have very high expectations. And also cutting to the chase, that's why we've had double-digit revenue growth every year for 15 years. And every company needs a general and an alpha dog leader to set the pace and tempo. And it's okay if you're not well-liked. I'm past that stage in my life of needing to be liked by everyone. Just being straightforward. All right, that's the talk show. I thought Judah Witkower, you hit an A, you scored an A++.
Thank you.
You got a 1600 on the SAT today. Damn good.
First time in my life.
You're going to Yale or Harvard. Damn good job today, Judah. His name is Judah B. Witkower. He's the jack of all wit. In all reality, he is our North Star for our infrastructure, the director of the network. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is the I Love CVille Show, where we will champion the underdog for as long as I'm behind this microphone. So long, everybody. Take care.
Have a great weekend.